Rightio, so got some pretty unique conditions at the moment, as you may be able to tell. So there's just I think there's probably about 5 fires that are currently burning just a little bit further south from where I am currently. So it's probably about 20 kilometers to the south, and there's a moderate wind, but it's nothing too powerful. So it's kind of just, it's allowing for the smoke to kind of gradually just come over. And as you may be able to see behind me, the light is extremely diffused. So it's almost as if there's just a big softbox that is just kind of, you know, shining or obstructing the sun. So if you look directly where the sun is setting, most often you would actually get this kind of white harsh light where all the highlights will be blown out. But as you can see behind me, it's actually gorgeous. Like, it is pretty well prime. I'm not often someone to actually shoot directly into the sun. I really don't like blowing out my highlights. I don't like kind of that harshness. It doesn't feel like the image is always balanced. Sometimes when it comes to a sunrise or a sunset, I will, but it has to be very specific conditions to actually, yeah, really allow me to do that and utilize what's actually available in front of me. So these conditions are pretty prime, absolutely prime, I'm not gonna lie. So I've actually just come down to this, it's not too picturesque. You look at it and you're like, oh, why would you be taking a photo here? But the best part about it, I feel, is you're allowed to, well, it's not you're allowed, but what you can really do with photography is you can idolize on the features that you really want to through your image. So you can kind of have this perspective of finding the beauty within it. You can allow that to be presented to others so they can find it within it as well. And I think that's extremely powerful because everyone has their own perspective. And I think when you kind of see these features, like, say, I guess it's nothing major, but the leading lines that kind of go throughout the frame, which I've got currently kind of aligned, and then the reflections of the clouds, which are currently starting to burn a little bit of a magenta kind of tone. I absolutely adore it. Like, I really, really love these kinds of settings. And I think especially with situations like this where you're able to, I guess, utilize the unique conditions that are presented, it really kind of, it allows for something that really is kind of irreplicable. So you can't really replicate it. It's not like you're going to be able to come to this spot or again at sunset and get this shot. Like, there's so many different kind of conditions that have to align for this to be presented, and that's what I really love. Like, I love capturing those moments that, you know, there's so much that kind of is encompassed to present what you see in front of you, except often we'll just see it and think that's beautiful, and there's nothing wrong with that. But me personally, I overanalyze the shit out of things. So it's kind of, yeah, I mean, when they do present themselves, I absolutely love it. Like, I really do, because I know that there's so much that is actually going into what we see in front of us. And, you know, the unique kind of variables that present what we see is just, it's remarkable. It's very finite. The gap of possibility is, you know, it's, yeah, like 1 in 1,000, and I really, really adore that. So yeah, I'm just kind of appreciating it at the moment. I was scouting out a few compositions. I'm pretty happy with what I did initially scout out, but it's, yeah, I mean, it's a really, really gorgeous afternoon. Even walking down here, seeing kind of the tones on the beach, it was just so soft, except it was kind of burning this really orange kind of warmth, and it was just beautiful. It was really, really nice. Even walking down the bushland to get here, I really loved it. Like, I just felt so, you know, warm and satisfied with just kind of being around this kind of beauty, because it is so unique. And, you know, it's not like there aren't fires very often. It's, I guess there's probably a couple, maybe not around this time of year, but I think that it's, yeah, one of those things that you've just got to utilize when it does become available. I mean, there's always kind of that contrast between the chaos of the calm, and that's what I'm trying to produce and provide for people to see. That, I guess, even within those chaotic kind of periods and those detrimental aspects, there is kind of beauty that comes from it, and it's always a matter of perspective whether you see it in, you know, an optimistic form, or you just see a kind of devastation. And, you know, it's always acknowledged, except allowing myself to truly see something that's beautiful within it is, I think, extremely powerful. So that's what I've really come to, I guess, idolize on. I'm just gonna snap a quick image off here. So my settings are 1/15 of a second, going at f8, using a 17-40 on the 6D body. Also, yeah, just kind of zoomed in, I think at about 35 mil. Yep, right on 35. So yeah, I'm kind of focusing in the foreground, except I'm allowing it to get that kind of depth. Kind of loses it, it goes around that bend. There's a little bit of sharpness that kind of just drops off, which I'm pretty happy with because it kind of just gets lost within the background of, you know, what's actually available here. And I really, really love that. You don't need to always see those fine details throughout all of the kind of landscape. And so often people see the rules of landscape photography rules, and they'll think, I need to get everything in focus, everything has to be tack sharp. Realistically, half the time the only way you're going to do that is focus stacking, and if you're really into kind of traditional art, you're not going to want to do that. So, you know, you just utilize what's available in front of you and you appreciate it. Like, you don't need to be getting all these kind of rules into your image. You've got to be able to interpret it and actually implement things that are really going to be relevant to the image, which actually allow it to be a stronger image. Like, sometimes the rule of thirds aren't going to work. Sometimes your compositional keys that you think are, you know, great, or you think that it's your style, they might not work with the scene that you're actually trying to capture. And, you know, you can skate out some locations trying to find it, but sometimes you've just got to really be able to actually improvise and find kind of that creativity within you to capture something that's going to be creatively kind of intuitive with your own self and, you know, being immersed within the scene, as opposed to just kind of having this thing at the forefront of your mind thinking, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do this. It doesn't work like that. It's going to be idealistic for a lot of people, but you've got to be personalized, and, you know, finding that unique kind of aspect within you to appreciate and accept it, I think that's really powerful. It really is. That's something that I've, I guess, idolized on for a while, but yeah, I don't believe that you always need to be focusing on these kind of rules, because ultimately they're guides, they're not rules. There's always going to be that aesthetic kind of soothing feeling that you will get, or you'll find kind of pleasing within the images that are, you know, composed on the rule of thirds. You're allowed to kind of lead the lines throughout the frame and take the viewer on a journey, but that doesn't mean that you have to do it within every image. If you think about it, there's going to be about, let's say, approximately 10 million photographers, 10 million landscape photographers who are going to go out there. They're going to be thinking in their mind as well, I need to be capturing that image with all of these rules interpreted or incorporated within the frame. You know, if you were just to go out there and snap one that had your own unique kind of aesthetic within the frame that was capturing something that you personally connected with, when you just, you know, kind of allowed that stuff to go to the back of your mind and you just composed with what you really felt, I think that's going to be a really strong image. You're not worrying about this kind of, you know, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. The technicalities behind it, they should come naturally when you actually understand what you're doing. I think that it comes down to really actually, you know, connecting with the environment or the subject that you're shooting. That's when kind of the strongest images come. That's when, I guess, you have that story that's being told within your image, because you are immersed, you are a part of that landscape or that, you know, that subject. It's truly a part of you and you're a part of it. And I think when you're able to do that, that's when you become, I guess, a real, I wouldn't say a real photographer, but, you know, you become, I guess, able to utilize your strengths. You understand what your strengths are, and your strengths often are to think outside the box, because so many people are cookie cutting themselves straight into what they think is a professional photographer. And, you know, that's not the way that I believe photography should be. Personally, you know, there's always been very, very strong photographers out there, and you think about it, they never had anything like the internet. They never had those kind of, you know, people on YouTube that they could go and watch and try and get these, you know, tips from. They figured it out themselves from their own personal experience. They didn't have those kind of, you know, external influences that kind of made them perceive the landscape in a way that, you know, they then thought, oh, I'm going to get the most attention for this image if I shoot it this way. They just shot what they felt half the time, because they weren't shooting for anyone else, they were shooting for themselves. And yes, they incorporated some of the strongest imagerists, photographers. They were, you know, utilizing some of these kind of features, such as the rule of thirds. They were kind of composing with meaning, they were conveying something throughout the image. Except the reason why they were so kind of idolized is because that was unique. They were doing it before other people had been doing it. When there's kind of something that becomes a trend, it's not unique anymore. You've got to think of something that's going to put you outside of that box of being the trend. You want to think outside of that square and go, hey, what can I do that's actually going to stand out from the crowd? Not just go along and say, this is what everyone else has been doing, I'm going to do it too. You really want to be able to stand out, have your own kind of, you know, perspective, and portray that within your imagery to actually be something that is powerful, so people can connect with it and actually understand that, you know, you're doing it because you love it and because it's connected with you personally. It's not because you're doing it for this kind of, you know, aesthetic pleasure for others. I mean, there's so much more to photography than just doing it like that. And you know, it's always going to be personally interpreted. I'm not saying that it's the right way, I'm not saying it's the wrong way, but you know, you've really got to listen to your own self, understand what you really want to be able to, I guess, achieve within your photography. And it can just be a personal kind of, a personal journey. I think the strongest, you know, the strongest aspect of photography is allowing yourself to go on that exploration of, you know, your personal self and the personal journey that photography takes you on. You know, expressing that through your images is extremely powerful, extremely powerful. Like, I don't think that there's any form of art that is as kind of, I guess, immersive as photography is. And I really think that, you know, when that's utilized by someone personally, they can get so much out of it. And that's what I really want to be able to provide. Not only through my imagery, except I want to be able to inspire others to understand how powerful photography really is. Not because it can have, I guess, an effect on others, but the effect that it can have on the photographer themselves and the personal kind of journey that it can be, you know, allowing them to be taken on. And I really think, yeah, that's the most powerful aspect. And you know, to disregard that and just go along this, yeah, cookie cutting kind of line of what everyone else does is just selling yourself short. You may as well make the most of the gear that you have available to you, even if it is just an iPhone. So that's my personal perspective. Definitely only an opinion. I'm not saying that anyone has to abide by that, no one has to go by that. That's just, you know, I guess you could say that's a guide, like the rule of thirds, but ultimately, once you understand those guides, you implement it subconsciously, and you know, the subliminal aspects of it kind of come through within your imagery when you know that it's right to implement them. You know, that's kind of that's me done. That's what I really wanted to express this afternoon. But yeah, I think it's just one of those things, and it really does become a strength when you allow it to. So yeah, I appreciate your time. Just consider that next time you're kind of, you know, immersed within a scene that is beautiful, or you, I guess, are immersed within a situation where you want to, I guess, feel the beauty within you, except you just can't because there's so much kind of noise going in your head that, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this, I need to, you know, be able to create something that others are gonna like. Like, it doesn't matter. It's not about that, it's not about your gear, it's not about anything external, it's all internal and what you feel and what you actually really want to convey. So, you know, that's about all, but I really think that it's something just at least to be aware of. So yeah, take note, implement it next time you're out there, and yeah, continue, I guess, appreciating your own self. Don't go out there doing things for others, because there's so much more to it that you can really implement to actually gain from your own experiences. So cheers, I appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the flip side.